OnEducation is sponsored by Participate, a community learning platform where the world learns together. Later in the episode, we'll hear about one of Participate's communities, Teach the Global Goals, and how you can get involved in its free community learning opportunities with educators around the world.
When you start counting calories, it's a little terrifying how much we intake every day.
Especially with the guy under the guise of thinking you're being healthy, like orange juice.
Oh no!
Right?
Don't touch orange juice. No,
That's
a rookie
like
move on Sunday. You don't touch orange juice in your mimosas. You just do the champagne. Wait, I'm sorry, I got lost. That was not what we're talking about. I got lost. Sorry.
I like it. Welcome to OnEducation, part of the On Podcast Media Network. My name is Mike Washburn.
And I'm Brad Streffler. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. We talk about the new jobs for Mike and I, some more changes to the future of the pod, and our guest this week is the one and only Master Dig It, Noah Geisel.
I dig Noah Geisel.
I'm all dig on Noah Geisel.
So we took 2 weeks. We took 2 weeks off, and it's funny. We used to always joke that when you take too much time off, so much shit happens that you gotta spend the first 20 minutes of the podcast catching up on everything that's happened over the last 2 weeks. So that's exactly what we get to do right now.
There's some big things. Like there's
big things have happened. So obviously, just to address it, Glenn has left OnEducation as a co-host. You can go and check out his tweet on the Twitters for why, because I have no desire to speak for him at all or put words in his mouth or anything like that. And, you know, obviously we had some amazing times together. It was 200-ish episodes, tons of work, tons of, busy nights. And I appreciate Glenn and all of the time he invested in this. And I think, his legacy on the podcast is strong. And so we wish Glenn all the best. He was a great co-host.
It was. I mean, you all know, and anyone that has listened to the last few episodes I've been on, like was so excited to come join this team, to be a part of it and join Mike and Glenn. I've been fortunate enough to hang out with them both in person and get to know both of them as friends over the last few years. And so, I'm certainly sad to see Glenn go, but it's like you said, not going to put words in his mouth. Sad to see him go. Glad he's making the best choice for him, and excited for what we can do,
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I could also spend a couple seconds and just say that, Brad and I are talking all the time, similar, frankly, to the way that Glenn and I talked about the podcast and its direction and talked a lot about the future. And, we have a sponsorship deal with our friends at Participate. We have that until the end of November. So I can promise you that you're going to continue to hear from us every week between now and the end of November for sure. But Brad and I, and we're going to talk about it in just a minute, we're really, really, really busy. We may be two of the busiest people that you folks out there listening know. And with that being said, I mean, I am editing the podcast now, which is not, I edited, if you're an OG listener of the podcast, you know that I edited the beta episode of the podcast, and that's it. That is my OnEducation editing career.
And last episode. You edited the last episode.
Except for the last episode. And so I am editing the podcast. I have not enough time to do it. I am anticipating it being full of mistakes. But we're going to get through that. Brad and I will continue to talk about how it's going, how we feel, how the future might look, and frankly make a decision probably around the end of October about what to do going forward. I think there are some ways to continue it. We've talked about those, and I think I think that there is a good possibility that we end the run as well. I would put it at 50-50. But we have some great episodes coming up, tons of amazing interviews. We have a whole series of ISTE related interviews coming up with tons of great books that we're starting to get in the mail now. And we're really excited to talk to those authors who some of them we've had on the podcast before and are writing their next books, which is also great. So don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere either, at least for a little while. And we still got some great conversations, including one with Noah.
And, I was going to say, we got an episode with Noah coming up. I think we have thoroughly proven tonight that not only will you continue to get episodes, at least until November, they're probably going to get longer because Mike and I both don't know how to shut up.
Maybe that's why Glenn left. I just couldn't shut up enough.
He couldn't take it anymore. He's like, wait, we brought Brad on and he talks as much as Mike? Ooh, I'm out.
I'm out. So today was my first day. I'm exhausted, by the way. Like my eyes are watering. I'm like yawning and muting my mic well in mid yawn constantly during the last hour that we've been talking. And it's because today's my first day at Paper, paper.co.
Knowing you were doing this today, because we do talk all the time, like you said, I've kind of intentionally not asked you about how today has gone because I knew we were going to record and I wanted to be able to get first takes on air. So how was it? What was your day like? What does this new role look like for you? What's going on, man?
Yeah, so the title is Director of Community. Paper is very quickly growing. They added 20 people today. Today's onboarding was 20 people, and they've been adding 10 to 15 people every 2 weeks for the last couple months, growing very quickly. They do an amazing thing, Brad, and I honestly I can't believe that no one's done it before, and cracked this model, which is delivering tutoring at the district level. So selling a tutoring platform to the school districts. So not selling it to parents, because the problem with tutoring, the problem with any sort of educational support service is that typically only the rich kids could get something like that. Mm-hmm. And those are typically also the kids, ironically, that need it the least. Mm-hmm. Kids that get tutoring in the past have been also the kids that have been capable of advocating for themselves and telling people what they need and then getting it and expecting to get it. And with Paper, what you get is an army of tutors that are normally university, graduates or high level, even supply teachers. Offering tutoring in everything from math to computer science, basically almost any subject. There's a whole list on the website, and selling it to the district so that every single student in the district can just go online to Paper right now and talk to someone about what they're having a problem with their work. And what I love about it the most, or among many things, is that the tutors don't give the kids the answers, because that's not proper tutoring. When you don't get, that's not help. That's just providing the answers. So because they're trained as educators in most cases, they understand that just giving the child the answer to the math question isn't actually teaching them anything. But walking them through the solution and then allowing the students to solve it themselves with the assistance of someone is amazing. And I honestly think that this is the type of service that could change kids' lives, because there are tons of parents that work nights, that work midnights, that are our office jobs and so busy and pandemic and whatever. and or don't have the requisite skills to help their kids in math. For example, like I couldn't help my grade 8 son with his math very well. I'm just not good at it very, I could help them write a paper, history stuff, social studies, but math I would struggle with. And I certainly wouldn't have the patience probably to edit an essay for him or anything like that. But this you can actually upload your essay to paper and get it edited and annotated with notes and feedback by a paper tutor, which is wild to me. And that's free at the point of use to every student in the districts that sign on. So super excited to my job is going to be to talk to educators and build community in tons of different ways. Obviously there's a need for an online sort of community platform so that educators in California can connect with educators in Florida that are both using paper and want to learn how to apply it to their classrooms the best. So definitely connecting with educators a lot more than I was at Participate, which was definitely getting out of kind of the K-12 space. And I wanted to kind of stay talking to teachers and educators, which is kind of what I do best.
Yeah, and I think that was, as you and I have talked over the last year or so, and we've done multiple different projects together and different things, and, I worked with Participate a little bit here and there. They were, like you said, sort of pushing away from that, and that just wasn't where they were successful, and it is what it is. Like, it's fine. But I think that the idea, like you said, building community is something that you have done so well historically. But like you said, I love the idea of a district-wide tutoring platform, because right now, I think about my district, and we're a tremendously large district, and each individual school kind of has their own, choices of tutor support and tutoring options and everything else, and we're spending probably a ton of money doing all these different pieces, like these disconnected pieces. But if we had one central system, like, I think there could be a lot of value in that. So, hashtag not an ad, maybe an ad, I don't know. But for me, not an ad. I think there could be value in it. I look forward to the community you're able to build around it, because, I think where you have gone, community has been built. So I think certainly they got a good hire there, and I'm excited to see where it goes, man. That's gonna be cool.
Awesome, thanks. How's your first week of school been?
It happened. So let's see. We're recording this on Monday, and last week was my first week as an AP with students. We did pre-planning week the week you and I were off. We didn't record, and so that was a lot. Dealing with teachers, that part's easy. I don't stress about being around teachers, and my dad was making fun of me, and he was like, oh, well, this Monday, we didn't have kids until Tuesday, but Monday we had our last opening week procedures, and I had to present to the whole staff, and multiple people made jokes about, oh, you got to stand up in front of a bunch of people, and I'm like, do you guys not realize I'm on a mic at least once a week in front of however many people? This doesn't bother me. I can be in front of an audience easy. That's fine. This is easy. Sitting in front of a parent and talking about graduation requirements, that's terrifying. One parent, one-on-one, no, don't want to do that. Have to do it every day. Don't want to do it. Standing in front of 200 people, meh, that's easy. But no, it's, that part of my job is easy. It's the week with kids has been a lot harder than I think I expected it to be. I think a lot of it is my own stress I put on myself. I've been super reflective for the last week of, the first day of school was not nearly as smooth as I would have liked. It's not as smooth as I have experienced first days at other schools, which means that there are people that are better than me, and that hurts me. I'm not good with that. I don't like that. And people, the thing people say all the time, they're like, well, but for your first year as an API, that was a great first day. And I'm like, well, that's the same thing as saying you didn't suck for someone who's never done this before. I don't need to be better than someone that's never done this before. I need to be better than the people who have done it before. That's a useless compliment. That just makes me feel worse about myself. Thanks. But that's my own issues to deal with. I'm working through. But no, it's been interesting, jumping from middle school back to a high school, even though I worked at high school before, and then jumping from a coaching position into an AP position, there's like a lot of change there. And so it's been there's a lot of learning curve. I am tremendously thankful, and I will publicly say 1,000 times that my guidance team is amazing, and I would probably not have the time to even do this recording if it weren't for them. So they are awesome, and I could not be happier with the team I am with. And that was, not my choice. I just kind of got stuck with them, and I could not have been happier to be stuck with this group of people that are just crushing it every single day. Our student information system has been in and out all week. Our Google Drive is in and out all week. I can't run reports correctly. It takes twice as long as it should, 3 times as long as it should to write a kid's schedule. Everything is like every hurdle that could have been thrown in front of us has been thrown at us. And my team has just said, all right, let's go. And they just get to work. And I could not ask for more than that. And so my own stressors aside, I'm very happy with where I am. I think we did great work the last week, and I'm excited to bring this group of seniors to graduation and be ready to bring the next group next year and just kind of do this thing. I don't know. It's cool. It's been stressful, but as of today, I feel pretty good about it.
It's a learning experience, man. You got to learn how to do it sometime. So, just like everything, and sometimes you're going to have crappy days. You're going to have days where it doesn't go exactly the way that you thought. I mean, we made tons of mistakes on the podcast, and we've all probably made tons of mistakes in our jobs. And you learn and you move on, and you don't make the same mistake again. It's I have no doubt with your work ethic and that sort of stuff that you're gonna do just fine, even better. Not to get in your head, better than just fine. You're gonna do great. So kudos to you and starting that new adventure. It's a lot of fun. Speaking of adventures, you're already shaking your head. So I've known. I'm more active now than I've ever been in my life. That's like I can preface everything I'm about to talk about or whatever with that. I am exercising more than I've ever exercised in my life. But I'm not losing a ton of weight, so I'm and I need to. So I'm on a bit of a diet, and it's been tough, man. It's been tough. Mm-hmm. But I am learning a little bit about myself and about, portion control, I think is the thing that I'm learning about the most, and how much I eat, especially bread. I'm learning a
bread
lot
will kill you.
I'm learning literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bread will kill you literally.
Yeah.
Sounds like a show title.
Bread will kill you literally. That's the name of the show.
The amount of bread that I eat the amount of bread I eat while thinking I'm eating healthy is crazy. And I am eating significantly less bread. But like, for example, I would think, a healthy lunch is like, a little salad and maybe a couple crackers or something like that, or some chips, and then 2 sandwiches. And I'm like, damn, this is a healthy lunch. I'm feeling great about my healthy lunch. And and then you realize that it's now I'm thinking,
even with like white bread, 2 sandwiches, you're at like 450 calories just in bread alone. So I mean,
it's like a 600 calorie lunch, man. It's not a healthy lunch.
No.
There are way less healthier lunches.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But and there is a sliding kind of scale, and you can, when you're eating to lose weight, you can offset. It's not like carbon credits are bullshit, right? Like that's you're just polluting and using other people's pollution to pollute, or whatever. But this, you can. Like, I can, eat a light lunch because I know I'm going to have, something more calories for dinner or something like that. But still, like, that healthy lunch is 600 calories. So now I'm really trying to do this, and I'm seeing results, but it's not the funnest thing in the world.
I will say, so I don't know if I've said this. I don't think I've said this on OnEducation, but I used to weigh almost 300 pounds.
And I think I knew this.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this with you, but it was totally in private. But I used to weigh almost 300 pounds. I currently weigh closer to 200. And at one point I did dip back below 200. Currently I can fit in, well, okay, not currently. Pandemic has not been kind to me. So like it's a little tight, but I can still kind of fit in my high school tux. But anyways, not related. It may be related.
I don't want to know when you've tried to fit into your high school tux recently, buddy. That's a story.
It hasn't been in the last couple, like last year, but I mean in general, I did try one time. Anyways, but no, so I used to weigh 300 pounds, and when my son was born, or right before my son was born, and he's now 9, so this will be almost 10 years ago that this all started, that, I kind of had this moment where it was, hey, I'm not going to see my kid grow old. Like, if I keep doing this, it's not, and I was that high school kid that could eat 7,000 calories a day and never gain a pound, and then the freshman 10 became the freshman 30, and then the sophomore 30, and then the junior 30, and I was 160 pounds when I got out of high school. It's 6'2", 160 pounds. I could not gain weight if I tried. And then all of a sudden my metabolism was like, deuces, we left in high school, like we're done. And then it just went real uphill fast. And so it wasn't until way later that I realized, hey, I might actually be big, and these shirts aren't just too small. And and so I started watching it. But for me, it was a very simple calculus, and I tell people this all the time when they talk about dieting. It's your body is really a simple machine. Like, it's a very simple. It is calories in, calories out, and like if there's a deficit, if you eat less than you burn, you lose weight. If you eat more than you burn, like you gain weight. It's a pretty simple calculus, and all these fad diets and all these things about, a low carb diet. Okay, yeah, that works because carbs, generally speaking, weight to calorie ratio are significantly higher than pretty much anything else. So like it works because if I avoid potatoes and bread, I can eat as many vegetables as I want, and as much as I want to eat vegetables, I will never hit 2,000 calories a day. Like I could just take in zucchini all day, every day, and just constantly, every second of my day, I could eat zucchini, and I would never get to 2,000 calories. Like it just wouldn't happen. So yeah, okay, cool, low carb, whatever. And that's what it is. It's like when you realize, when you start counting calories, it's a little terrifying how much we intake every day.
Especially with under the guise of thinking you're being healthy, like orange juice.
Oh no! Don't touch orange juice. No, that's a rookie move on Sunday. You don't touch orange juice in your mimosas. You just do the champagne. Wait, I'm sorry, I got lost. That was not what we're talking about. I got lost. Sorry.
I like it, but yeah, because the orange juice is probably unhealthier than the champagne.
Yeah.
It's the things that we eat under the guise of being healthy. That's the thing that I'm thinking about, the most. So today I had squash noodles with my spaghetti.
Yummy. I like squash noodles. Squash noodles are good. If they're cooked right, they're fine.
I'm gonna need to figure out how to cook them right.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. I got some recipes.
Because you can't douse enough spaghetti sauce on squash noodles to make them taste good at the moment. So there's that. So I mean, I would like to eat the things I like to eat again, but I do need to spend this time learning a little bit more about balance and what is good and not good, and I'm looking at a lot of labels, and that kind of stuff. For me it's been an educational experience. Not all of it has been fun. I've been fairly grumpy going to the grocery store a couple times. As you walk by the chips and the beer and the candy and stuff like that. But
I know you and your candy, man. Like there's probably candy within reach of you right now.
There's not.
No, it's all gone. It's all gone.
There's no dude. There's a bottle of water right here, and that's
good
it.
for you. Good for you.
That's
You know, it's I will say hashtag not an ad again, but you know, MyFitnessPal is what got me through it, man. Like, because it forces you that awareness of going, okay, well, if I want to eat these 3 crackers, oh crap, that's 150 calories. I could eat 7 squash for 150 calories. I'll probably be more full off of 7 squash than these 3 crackers. I should probably do that. Like, it's, you know, it makes you think about all those choices. And to this day, I mean, it's been years since I've effectively calorie counted, but that math in my head, like I can look at what I've eaten today and go, oh, I ate too much. I shouldn't have done that, and I'm going to pay for it later. But, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Friends, we had an amazing chat with our friend Noah Geisel. And as Noah said on Twitter, the takes were taken. So enjoy our conversation coming up next with Noah Geisel.
It is like a spider web. These diverse, interconnected spaces help and inspire us to understand, empathize, and take local action in our schools.
That's Yajaira Guedes, a facilitator within the Teach the Global Goals community on Participate. The community is home to hundreds of resources, courses, and educators around the world, collaborating on how to bring the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals into the classroom.
With our students, and as a collective to be a powerful force to achieve the vision of a more peaceful, healthy, and equitable world.
We'll hear more later in the episode from another community facilitator on why you should get involved.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Our guest today is no stranger to the podcast, easily the record holder for number of appearances, has that market dominated. But he is the Microcredentials Program Manager at the University of Colorado Boulder, and a great friend of the podcast, Noah Geisel. Welcome. It's been a hot minute, friend.
Yeah, it's so awesome to be here. Great to join you with co-host Brad. And yeah, I have a job now. I'm not just a consultant and adjunct. I actually have a boss.
So tell us about the job, because obviously, working at Participate, I was pretty interested in what we were doing with badging and credentialing, and definitely talked about it constantly at the company. And we're really fascinated with you going to work for a university system in a role that literally had the word microcredentials in the title, which is not super heard of still. So tell us what you're doing there and the scope, and I'd love to hear all about it because it sounds awesome.
It is so awesome. Thanks so much for asking. Yeah, we there's only a handful of folks that I've found in higher ed around the country that have something like that in their job title, where it's not just an add-on to their already overflowing plates. And so I just feel super fortunate. I've learned that CU Boulder was going to have the job posting and said, that's my world. When that comes out, let me know. I'll amplify it, and get the word out in the badging community. And then I saw the job post, and I showed it to my wife. I said, I think I need to apply for this. This looks like I had written my own job description. And so I applied and was fortunate to get the job. I have an amazing boss. I'm housed in the office of the registrar at CU Boulder, SCO Buffs. And for folks who don't know me, I live in Denver, Colorado, so it's right in my backyard. I didn't have to move for the job or anything. And it's really cool what we're doing. I think we're going to change the world, and it's an opportunity to do it at a pretty big stage, an R1 kind of top 50 school. And so it's just super prestigious, and there's a lot of executive level championship, and word is spreading just really quickly. I don't have time to do too much like marketing and selling internally for, hey, everybody, come look at microcredentials. My door has been banged down, virtually, day in, day out with folks saying, hey, can we do this? Would this be a good microcredential? And it is just one of the most exciting, privileged places I've been in my already really exciting and privileged career.
So are you helping professors add microcredentials to their courses, or are you helping the school add like professional development micro-credentialing, or like what are the lines, like the pathways of credentialing that you're kind of working in? I'm super interested.
Yeah, man. I mean, we are just in this amazing place of kind of being able to craft that and also go big at the same time. So I mean, we are very much that image of building the plane while we're flying it, and that's really scary. But so far, things are going really well. And so, to answer your question, we have opened things out to say that any unit on campus can propose a new micro credential. So that could be professors, out at their school, but it could also be infrastructure and sustainability as an example on the non-academic side, where they approach us saying, we do all this training for frontline service employees, and might we be able to credential their learning, for custodians and bus drivers around basic computer literacy, that helps them level up their readiness to do their job well for us, but also probably helps advance their professional growth in the next job that they're going to apply for.
I was going to say, I suspect for like upskilling, because obviously universities offer degree programs and master's degrees and graduate programs, but a lot of schools, a lot of university programs are like certificates where people go just to take like this one course, this one thing. And they're doing it for their job. They're not enrolled in like a program necessarily. They're just some even get sent by their company or whatever to take a management or whatever course. And having that credential means, that it's persistent. Like we actually, I don't think have talked enough about credentialing on the podcast because, I definitely think, especially working at Participate and Mark and Julie, I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid for sure at this point. But I mean, having those artifacts of learning that they can then take and, like you said, show what they've learned, in the real world, as opposed to just like, while I enjoy the value of points and achievements and like badges in terms of like gaming and stuff like that, this actually means something, right?
Yeah, and I think that gamification piece is definitely inherent in anything where you're making progress monitoring, goal setting visible for learners, right? So I certainly wouldn't want to discount that. I think that what's really unique about where the space is going now is really just finely tuned focus on the credentialiness of the credentials. And so, really, moving like, yes, this is powerful recognition. And we're also thinking really intentionally about who's the audience for this recognition, right? That this is not just for me and, my mom's digital refrigerator on which you can display my digital badges, right? Like we're really thinking about an audience, like a hiring committee, right? And, for any listeners out there who are still in a place of kind of wrapping their heads around what is this, or is this a fad? Is this going to be one more flavor of the week? I would invite you to consider the possibility that I'm not making it up when I tell you this is going to very quickly, sooner than you realize it, be ubiquitous. Earlier, just last week at Arizona State, GSD conference, there were slides from Coursera talking about this being the future. There were slides from Google Cloud that weren't even in presentations about micro-credentials that nonetheless had slides about micro-credentials where they were talking, dollars, not in the millions or billions, but trillions in regard to micro-credentials. So, this is not going away. Walmart is doing this internally for their employees. They just wrapped a pilot earlier this spring with 90 stores, and they are claiming that in the next year and a half, it's going to roll out to every store and every job level from entry all the way up to general manager. And so, we are in the very near future going to be in a place where pretty much, if you're into 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you are going to yourself or be within a degree or two of separation from someone who is earning, digital badge credentials. Guild Education is talking about them now. If you saw the news last week, that Target is now going to be, providing college education plus books for all of their employees. That is through Guild. And so this is not going away, and it is going to be ubiquitous. It's just a matter of what it looks like, and if it's, exclusively through the lens of better, more effectively and efficiently matching cogs to the industry wheels, or if it is more human-centered and really valuing the learners at the center of things.
So, yes, I'm in. I'm all in. You know this about me. So I remember, and it was probably a while ago that I had you on my show, Noah, and my old show, and we talked about this, and like we talked about just, you know, the potential disruption to what we think of higher education that that microcredentialing could do. But I want to zoom back in, because I feel like we're talking at 1,000 feet right now, and like Mike said, I don't know how often this has actually been really dived into on education. So just like in a brief primer, like what is microcredentialing in your eyes? Because I feel like the definition has changed over time anyways. But so like right now, currently in August of 2021, what is elevator pitch microcredentials?
It is recognition and storytelling. And so, you know, just like we have certificates of achievement, diplomas, you know, you name it, Boy Scout badges, you know, and it is powerful recognition. But, you know, what is transformative about digital badge credentials is not just, you know, that we can take that certificate and make it digital and, you know, make it verifiable, right? It's not just something that you have and now you can attach it where you want. On the consumer side, you know, a future employer, college admissions, you know, they can click on it and actually verify that it was issued by who you say it was issued by. You know, and so that's a level of trust that goes beyond, you know, something like, you know, something that's mailed from the registrar's office, you know, no offense to where I work, but, you know, with a rubber stamp on the envelope, you know, with a piece of Scotch tape over it, right? Like these are secure, they're portable, they're owned by the learner once they're issued to them. You know, I think that's really powerful, but in addition to that, there's also this whole storytelling, you know, mechanism through the metadata. And so it's not just here's this recognition. We can actually bake into that. Here's a description of what went on in this program. Here's the criteria that the learner had to meet. And when we issue it, we have the opportunity, you know, that hopefully everybody sees, is to attach evidence to show how that learner met that criteria. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it almost starts to go to a place for anybody who's thinking, is that kind of like e-portfolio, you know, kind of world? And yeah, it kind of is, right? If you picture, here's a credential that doubles as a portfolio for, you know, yes, we trust the CU Boulder brand, and, you know, we can still validate for ourselves. You know, we can verify, we can click on and see the evidence that the learner provided in order to meet the criteria of that, you know, program. And I guess one thing that you did point out on microcredentials, you know, in a lot of spaces, the two words microcredential, digital badge credentials are going to be used interchangeably. One thing I have kind of noticed over the last 9 months in my job is that there are, in the higher ed space, the pattern and trend that I'm picking up on is microcredential is being termed as more of a programmatic term. So you propose a microcredential, your institution, it gets approved. Learners declare or enroll in a microcredential program. And digital badge credentials are what are issued that kind of tell the story of the learning and achieving that happened as a part of a microcredential. So it almost might be analogous to, you know, a digital badge is to a microcredential as a diploma is to a degree.
Okay. Interesting. So that's the 2021 view, and I know I've talked to you about this before, and I think that's probably changed over time. But I have to wonder. I mean, we have gone through obviously this tremendously transformative period in the last 2 years, well, almost 2 years now, as we've gone through the pandemic and everything else, and all these people who maybe weren't online learners or never wanted to be online learners got thrown into a space that we all suddenly had no choice, right? So has that caused, in your experience and what you've been dealing with in the front lines of all this, has that caused an explosion in microcredentials? Is that just like a beautiful, like, primordial soup where so much can rise out of it? Like, what is that? What is the intersection of those things for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say that there probably have been, you know, certain amplification as certain folks who might not have been predisposed to things that are digital, you know, move more digital. I think that's, you know, probably more of a byproduct than, you know, something that was focused on. I think that, you know, one thing that we'd be naive not to consider is that in certain places, you know, this is about revenue. You know, this is about how do we, you know, recognize market forces where people are seeking, you know, credentials in certain skills or competencies because employers are looking for those, right? And that, you know, as gaming guys, you are, you know, no stranger to Epic Games and Unreal Engine. And, you know, as in case you listeners don't know, Unreal Engine is this amazing tool. People can use it to create their own video games. You can also use it for really powerful 3D rendering outside the space of games. And so you have people going on Unreal Engine earning digital badge credentials for skills with that tool who are working for, you know, BMW, who are working for Gensler Architecture, Lockheed Martin, you know, sending stuff to the space station. And so, you know, we'd be naive not to think that there's folks who are recognizing, oh, there is a market demand for credentials in these high demand skills. And so we're going to spin up micro-credential programs that we can sell as a way of, in this era of budget cuts, right? I mean, no college is thriving right now compared to where they were 2 years ago. And so, you know, there is certainly kind of an explosion on that front because of the revenue. But I think that, you know, it doesn't have to be this kind of evil corpse sort of lens to it. There's definitely plenty of that, yes, there's revenue, and this is good for humans at the same time. I think that there's also, you know, just over that same 2 years, it coincided with also just, you know, digital badges turned 10 last summer, or this spring actually. And so, you know, as a result, you know, it just went from what is this to, oh, I think I've heard of this, to, oh, I've seen this, or I have these myself. And so it's also just in the maturation cycle. The last 2 years kind of fell to a place where a lot more people were in a place of being, you know, comfortable with wrapping their minds around it and saying, you know, this is not necessarily a threat to, you know, my golden calf. And I might be really excited and on board with this as a way to change the world.
That's awesome. So we, you know, the unfortunate byproduct of not having spoken to you on the podcast in a while is that we haven't done a Dig It or Ditch It in quite some time. And Brad is dying to do Dig It or Ditch It.
So I don't know if everybody even knows this, but like I was actually supposed to host a live Dig It or Ditch It at Badge Summit like a summer and a half ago. Like before, if it had not been for COVID, there would have been a live Dig It or Ditch It where I would have been on stage with Mike and Glenn and Noah, and we would have done like a live Dig It or Ditch It. And I had so many options available, and now they're not relevant anymore. But still, I was so excited.
All your hopes or dreams were dashed.
Were crushed. And now I'm a co-host on OnEducation, and I am with Noah Geisel and Mike Washburn, and I get to do Dig It or Ditch It. We're doing it. We're doing it right now. We're doing it live. We're doing
I'm a hard dig on this. hot take, hard dig.
Hot take,
That's
hard
awesome.
dig.
So Brad has some topics, and then Noah has a topic. So we're doing 4, it looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it, so let's go.
All right, so Dig It or Ditch It, and I'm gonna throw a softball at you on the first one. I feel like this is a nice, easy one. We're gonna talk it as a Florida teacher. We have thoughts. So I'm gonna throw up mask mandates in school. Are we digging mask mandates? Or are we ditching mask mandates? And Noah, you're the guest, so I'm gonna let you go first.
So I work on a campus in which they have mandated masks on campus, and I am definitely digging it. You know, the folks who are making these decisions have access to, you know, the best and most current, most reliable information that science, you know, can offer us. And you know, I as an English and Spanish guy, you know, don't know enough to question that, and so I am a hardcore dig.
Yeah, as the Canadian socialist, I am also a hardcore dig on mask mandates. They are still very actively in effect in Ontario, both in schools and in any public building that you walk into. You have to wear a mask in Ontario. And, you know, I do want to acknowledge that I don't have to wear a mask very often. The longest I've ever worn a mask is maybe 45 minutes when I've gone grocery shopping. I don't go to school. I don't teach in a classroom. I imagine it sucks when you have to sit in an office all day wearing a mask. And it can wear on you, both probably physically and maybe even mentally. But you know, I am, you know, I want to keep everyone alive. So I'm hard digging the mask mandates.
So I can't even come in here and act like I'm a ditch it even as a Florida teacher, because like I feel like Florida man should just throw down like, no, you can't tell me to wear a mask, don't foul to my Florida, whatever stupid crap that my governor comes up with today. That's how I get myself fired, by the way. It's on air. But anyways, I cannot pretend that I am a ditch it on mask mandates. I wish we would just mandate all of them, and we don't really in my state, because we make our own decisions here. But what I will say is the closest thing to a hot take I can give you is that as a teacher who taught all of last year, I am so sick of saying, pull your mask up over your nose, pull your mask up over your nose, pull your mask hundreds of times every single day. Yeah. I am so sick of saying that, to just be able to like, you know what? I don't know. Your parents signed a piece of paper. You don't have to wear a mask. I'm moving on with my life. I don't mind that part of it. And then like the rest of my brain says, oh, but this could definitely lead to children dying. So maybe I should just suck it up and say, pull your mask up. It's.
Do you wear a mask at work, Brad?
Yes. Yeah. We employees have to wear a mask.
Oh, okay. So. Okay. So
technically it's mask mandate for everybody where I'm at, but students' parents can sign a piece of paper to opt out. So, because otherwise, our wonderful governor has decided to cut the pay of our board members and superintendents if they make a strong mask mandate. Because Florida. But anyways, moving on. Another hot button in Florida. My next dig it or ditch it for you guys, and we'll let Mike go first this time. We're going to talk about vaccine passports.
We're riding the slippery slope to communism here.
That's what we're doing.
And yeah, I am dying for a vaccine passport. I am very much digging that as well. I want the people who have done the right thing to have the privileges and freedoms to be able to do, something relatively normal in their lives again. And I think that vaccine passports are the way that the people who are being safe can be treated like they're being safe. And the people who aren't can, they love to tell you that things have consequences and choices matter and, whatever. And this is the consequence of their choice is, yes, you are going to be slightly shunned from parts of society when you're around other people because you made a dangerous choice to the people around you. And that is the consequence of that choice. So give me any sort of passport, identifier, certification, a mobile app. Give me something to show that I made smart choices, please.
Yeah, I'm also a dig on it. I mean, this in my mind, it's not that a new thing, right? Like when you go to certain countries that, they require you to show that you've been inoculated against certain things because otherwise they don't want you to come, right? They've seen the consequences of, certain kinds of fever and malaria. And, if you're not willing to be a part of the collective solution, then, they're just going to save themselves the trouble of inviting you in and being part of a collective problem that, brings your personal decision, to bear on other people who didn't ask for that. And so, I definitely, understand people who, feel targeted by that, people who think it's unfair, and I definitely dig that we're doing it.
Yeah. We are not doing it here. For the same reasons we're not mandating masks, because Florida, by the way, which is ironic because the cruise industry is one of the major job producers in the state of Florida, and it's completely shut down because the CDC says we can only do cruises if we actually allow a vaccine passport, and DeSantis says we can't run cruises if we run. Anyways, welcome to Florida. I'm a dig on vaccine passports, not only because yes, like everything you guys said, 100%. I think and I think if you watch social media at all right now, and you're in any sort of left-leaning social media, the idea of you're choosing to not do this, like you're exercising your freedom. We're all agreeing that you're exercising your freedom and not getting a vaccine. that doesn't mean you're free to do whatever you want. Like, that's literally how freedom works. Like, there's consequences to those choices, right? And also, these are a bunch of people who have never actually found themselves in a minority, and all of a sudden are actually feeling the pain from all the decisions that they've done their entire life that have made them the majority and made the minority feel out of place. But okay, cool, whatever, I'm gonna let that one go. But like, I just want vaccine passports so that the cruises can start back up. I actually don't want to go on a cruise whatsoever. They were disease-ridden small spaces before the pandemic, so like, I don't really need a cruise. But like, the cruise industry is kind of important to my area, so I would just kind of like vaccine passports so we have those back. I got one more. And then we can go to Noah's surprise one. So my last one is, we're in places where schools are starting to open back up, in some places in small doses or whatever else. So I'm going to talk, what is dig it or ditch it blended learning, like a hybrid model where teachers are teaching face-to-face and online. And Noah, you're on first on this one.
Do you know, I guess you kind of said two different things in my mind. If it's hybrid learning, I'm going to go ditch it. Blended learning, I think, is distinct from hybrid learning. I think that blended is something I dig, and I think that you hear less and less about blended learning because, something that's happened over the last 5 years and definitely over the last 2 years is that, what we used to talk about at conferences and in PD as blended learning is now just called learning. But when it comes to the hybrid approach, I've been fortunate that I have not had to do that. I have friends and colleagues who I've seen do it and excel at it. I don't think it is impossible. What I do think is that it is completely cruel and just not just and not what anybody's should be reasonably expected to do. It's just not fair. And if there's, I guess there could be models for the hybrid, where the remote side is not viewed as an add-on, they're more just watching what's going on. But the way that we've seen it run, where teachers are expected to essentially, do two jobs at the same time, is a hardcore ditch for me.
Yeah, I agree with Noah too. Is no one wins. It just seems like everyone gets, even in the hands of a really good teacher, you're still getting below their best at both, as opposed to getting their best at one or getting. Cheryl was my wife was a fantastic online teacher during the time when she was teaching 100% from home. And there were teachers that just absolutely thrived teaching online, loved it, and I'm all for that. And obviously there are, millions of teachers that were very good teachers in the classroom. But I can't imagine. I imagine there are people that feel like they did this well, but I can't imagine there are many educators who sat back and went, I taught everybody amazingly the entire time I was doing hybrid teaching. I can't imagine that's possible. And so that's unfortunate because they're not getting students. Students are the people who are losing in this situation. We're stuck in some cases, I suppose, in this situation a little bit but I mean, it's what we've talked about a million times. It's funding, it's budgets, it's local elections, choosing to prioritize things over other things, and then having no money so that you can hire more teachers. There's lots of reasons why we had to choose hybrid, and some of them are choices that end up biting us in the ass in the end. So but I'm ditching hybrid if we can at all possibly ditch it.
I as someone who did it all of last year, supported teachers in doing it all of last year, like, as most people probably know, I was a digital coach for the last 7 years, and before I became an assistant principal, and overnight the entire world needed me to help them with stuff, especially in my district where I was one of very few digital coaches. And so I helped teachers with this all year, and helped them find strategies and everything else. And at best, I found strategies to keep people afloat, and it was awful. And I was so excited to just go to a year where we were just face to face. And as awful as that is, because really that's not necessarily better at this point, but I know we were losing teachers left and right in this profession because they just could not maintain the stress of it. And then now it's like we got through it, and so I can't. I'm ditch hybrid, right? Like I'm ditch hybrid, except I'm not a hard ditch because right now we now have classrooms full of 25, 30 kids in the middle of a new variant coming out, and it's like, I don't necessarily want to teach hybrid. I really don't want to make my teachers do it.
In the class, right?
But I'd love to have half the class size. Man, I'd love to have half the class size.
Yeah.
Like and so like you said, the constraints of budget, the constraints of trying to build classes and running a master schedule and everything else, like it makes it nearly impossible to do it real effectively. But there's also consequences of ditching it. So I'm a ditch, but a ditch with an asterisk, I think, on that one. So it's hard. It's hard to deal with the realities of it right now.
Totally. So Noah, you have a topic, I believe, and we don't know what it is, as always.
As always, but we're gonna let Brad go first on this one. Brad, the rock group, the Crash Test Dummies, dig it or ditch it?
The Crash Test Dummies. Wow, that's a throwback. Dig it. I mean, I don't. Why would anyone be ditched that on? I don't understand why anyone would ditch the Crash Test Dummies. I'm dig it. I'm in. I don't even know. Like, is there a debate here? Am I stepping into an internet corner I don't know about? I feel bad, but I'm dig it. I'm digging on the Crash Test Dummies.
You would have the Canadians after you.
Would I? They don't like the Crash Test Dummies?
No, the Crash Test Dummies are a Canadian band.
Oh, okay. So if I was against the Crash Test Dummies.
Oh yeah, you'd have problems with me specifically. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, digging Crash Test Dummies, that sultry, deep voice. I forget the name of the lead singer. It's funny. A lot of '90s Canadian rock bands are making pretty legitimate comebacks right now. Big Wreck has been on tour quite a bit. Our Lady Peace just released a CD. Which not a CD because no one releases CDs anymore, but that's showing my age. Our Lady Peace.
That's how '90s bands come back. They're like, screw it, I want a CD. I don't care.
There you go. Our Lady Peace just released an album, and from all accounts, it sounds great. And they're going on tour, which is unbelievable. The Watchmen are out on tour. And, so maybe it's the time of the Crash Test Dummies. I would be all for a post-COVID Crash Test Dummies comeback tour. Maybe they could open for Genesis, because I'm going to see Genesis in the fall. An even older band than Crash Test Dummies. So imagine Crash Test Dummies opening for Genesis. I'd be all for that. I dig in Crash Test Dummies all day, Fred.
Listen, any band that can make a song whose title is just the letter M 12 times in a row, like
it's not. That's not the name of the song, though. It's called. Isn't it called Super? It's called Superman's Song.
Yeah, I think the official name is Superman Song, but still,
yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
everybody knows it is.
Yeah, Brad, that was actually a joke question. I just learned that they were a Canadian band, and so I just had to ask it just to see Mike's reaction.
Just to see Mike.
Yeah.
I would have been angry if
I'm ditch it. Screw those guys.
I'm ditching you.
Ditch it.
This is Ava Gay Blackford, another facilitator within the Teach SDGs community.
I believe that education is the most powerful force to encourage human rights and dignity, to wipe out poverty and strengthen sustainability, to build a better future for all. I think others should join this community because it creates a support network for members and serves as a global gathering place for teachers to share stories and support one another as we all figure out what learning looks like during the current global pandemic.
To access hundreds of resources about the global goals and to connect with almost 1,000 educators around the world, join the free Teach the Global Goals community. Visit go.participate.com/global goals to get started.
No, I do have a serious dig it or ditch it, though. Yeah, and something that we're starting to see is, since Brad came in with some serious hot button topics, with the whole CRT, the critical race theory, And folks are posting on social media where they're getting notes from parents saying, you need to submit your lesson plans to me every day. I need to see your lesson plans. And so, I'm kind of wondering, dig it or ditch it, guys, not just exclusive to the CRT controversy, but in general, posting lesson plans, daily for parents, dig it or ditch it. And we'll start with Mike.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that would be the breaking point for me. As a teacher, is if I had to report to parents, my lesson plans and get their approval. This is helicopter parenting jumping the shark, if that's at all possible. Because it's unimaginable to me that parents would have the gall to say, to tell me as a professional what I can and cannot or should and should not teach, and base that on your ideology, your personal ideology, as opposed to facts and the reality of history and what happened. And regardless of your, obviously mild leanings towards white supremacy, or maybe not mild leanings towards white supremacy, the fact is that I think slavery and racism was 10 million times worse than any history book has ever described it. And the sooner we get to the point where you face reality, face history, reconcile with that and teach it so it's not repeated, hopefully, the better. And, your racism and sensitivities towards that have no place in my classroom. Thank you very much. So I would be telling parents to pound salt as quickly as possible. I think that's an old person term. I am definitely.
I was gonna say I don't know that phrase.
Showing my age today.
Sounds like some old white person thing they'd say.
Yeah, it's like, get off my lawn. But definitely
pound salt with your critical race theory. I'm pretty sure is what they say.
It's ridiculous, and shame on any administrator that supports that. Shame on them for exposing your teachers like that. There is a bond, a trust that teachers should have with their superiors, and any administrator that sells out their staff, is causing great damage.
So not surprisingly, I'm a ditch it. But it's, to me, this is about midway through the pandemic. I kind of saw some of this stuff coming because, I know we talked about it on my show with someone. I don't remember when I've talked about it a few times, but we saw like this at the beginning of the pandemic. We saw this uptick of appreciation of teachers. Like, and it was memey. It was like, oh, I couldn't, these are all going to be an entire generation of kids raised by day drinking and all that kind of stuff. Like, we saw the memes and like, how do teachers do this every day? And we saw that stuff. And then there was like a genuine outpour of, wow, this is not actually easy to make a child learn all day. Who knew that was actually tough to do? And then we got into that summer and it was, wait, teachers don't want to go back to school? Like, we did this for 6 months. We're done. Like, it's their turn again. Like, we did this. We're good for the rest of their entire time in school. So, no, we're done. They need to go back to school, and they need to watch our kids again. And we started to see that decline of, it went from teachers are amazing and we need to respect them more to, what do you mean they don't want to go to work and they want to keep getting paid? And it was all this outcry against teachers again because they were worried about their own family's health. How dare they? And this is where that was headed. And I think we've talked about it. Maybe it was off air, but we talked about this was the dangerous conclusion of this, where we somehow managed to further erode the trust in teachers instead of increasing it. And this is where we ended up, is not only, like, I struggle sometimes. as an administrator, asking my teachers to give me lesson plans just day in and day out. Because like if I hired you, I trust you. Do your job. Unless I get into your classroom and things are going poorly, then we need to have a different conversation. But in general, I kind of start with a place of I hired you, I trust you, let's move on, and like do your job and let's do it. And I'll give you feedback on minor parts of how to, maybe better engage kids or whatever. But now we're asking teachers to provide lesson plans to parents. And first of all, if I provided a legitimate lesson plan to a parent, it would be like a foreign language to them. They wouldn't know what to do with it. So they wouldn't be able to effectively judge it, even if I did provide them with a lesson plan, let alone would it be a valid question for them to ask. Like, what am I going to, I'm sorry, I can't teach your child until you provide me with your most recent TPS report. I'm going to need that on my desk. Like now, that's going to need to be, I'm going to need a TPS report.
Don't forget the cover sheet.
Teach a kid. Yeah, don't forget the cover sheet on that TPS report. So it's not a two-way street. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. I'm ditch it. I get as a parent being concerned about what my child is being taught. I worry that the other side of it, I worry that my son is going to school and being taught that racism was about, people getting work for a limited pay and they got below minimum wage. Like I'm worried that that's what my kid's being taught, because that's definitely not what slavery was.
And that's what's happening in some places too.
Like every time he comes home, it's like, it's Columbus Day. I'm like, he never came to America. Neat. And we have a whole different conversation at home, but it's fine. So I get both sides of it, but no lesson plans to parents. Sorry, I'm out.
Guys, our harmony of full agreement on Dig It or Ditch It for this episode might be about to come to an end.
What?
Oh, I'm excited.
No,
excited.
I did caveat this that I was speaking in general terms, not exclusive to the CRT issue. I definitely am a hard ditch on, chasing a boogeyman that it does not exist. I think that is just a complete absurdity. I do, think that there might be some value if we open our minds to sharing lesson plans with parents. And I would caveat that with, Brad's point, a lesson plan like what we learned how to do in teacher school and like on this full-on template is probably overkill and unnecessary. But this is what we did today accounting. I think is there's some value to that. For teachers who get in the habit of doing that every day. At the end of class, just sending out a blast on back in the day, I used to do it on Edmodo, then Google Classroom. Now I do it on Canvas. Say, this is what we did. For me personally, I find great value in that for the students who weren't present, that it saves me having to do a homework folder or, having to respond to, hey, mister, what did I miss? And I think that if it's information I'm already creating to share with students, it also, is an opportunity to over communicate with parents to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. So when your student's saying, they didn't do anything to when you ask them, what'd you do in school today? And they're like, nothing. You can go in and refute that. This is what they did in school today. And so, I don't want people to take it the wrong way where I'm going when I say I'm providing parents with daily plans. I think that, caveat, brackets, asterisk, an accounting of what we did in class, I'm digging it. And I hope that we can still be friends, Mr. Washburn.
I think what you're talking about is completely different than the context of what's happening right now with these Freedom of Information Act requests and that nonsense.
Sending kids to school with body cams, no, I'm out.
I've had teachers. I've done it myself. Done monthly newsletters. Actually, at my school, one of the things we did was stop posting on the bulletin boards in the hallway, right? The classic boards in the hallway. We stopped posting student work, and as a school, we started putting on the boards, more what we were learning. So every unit. So I had 4 units in my year, and so every unit, every time I changed the board quarterly to a new board that reflected what we were learning. And actually one year I even wrote up a page and stapled it to the board as an informational pamphlet that parents could take out of the board and take home with them, and it was like a flyer for what we were doing. I'm all for sharing, and that's what LMSs do, especially in elementary school. The primary purpose of LMSs in elementary school isn't necessarily for the kids, it's for the parents, right? For the parents to stay on top of their kids and making sure they get their homework done, and just showing them what they're doing. I think we're talking about different things a little bit. At least I swear to God.
Yeah, that might have been a little bit of a trick question on my part.
Noah's just being contrarian. That's all.
No contrarian take, but also I think that there is also we're going to see from some of the tinfoil hat side of things, which we're unfortunately increasingly finding is a whole lot of people that they're going to take a refusal to do it as a affirmation that this non-existent boogeyman is there, right? Because you won't let us tour Area 51, that means that there are aliens there, right? And so because you won't share what's going on in your class, you must be covering this thing that even you don't understand well enough to teach it. So that, but it nonetheless, because you're not willing to talk about it, we're going to take that as affirmation that it's there, right?
Well, but I mean, that's not gonna. We're in a post-fact era. It doesn't matter what we do. That is all going to happen regardless. So I mean, I get it. I'm with you.
They counted the ballots in Arizona anyway.
5 times. So. They counted them 15 times. It doesn't really matter. I agree with you, Noah. I see your point, and I do. I've actually advocated to teachers, especially in secondary, before, saying this is what elementary teachers do, and it's very effective to tell parents what we're talking about. I've seen it work in my own classroom. It's different to be like, okay, this is my unit, and this is what we're talking about for the next 3 weeks, and this is my day-by-day lesson plan, and please make sure you pull it apart to find something you can object with. I think there's a wide range between those two things.
And tell me why you object to it, so that we can make it clear that you're a white supremacist, please, or a homophobe or whatever. Like, please identify who you are to the rest of us by telling me the problem you have with my lesson plan about the reality of Columbus. Please. I would actually love that. In fact, maybe you can make the case for doing this just so the racists self-identify. What do you think?
Yeah, and the wounded. Somebody I recently heard say, "Hurt people hurt people," and so I'm trying. That is my attempt at empathy with what's going on. I'm observing in the world is to start from a place of positively assuming that their outward, attempts to cause hurt are coming from a place of having been injured themselves. Not to excuse it, but to exercise
perceived
empathy.
Lack of domination of the entire culture of our country. But whatever, it's fine. It's the same thing.
Under a different name, yeah.
Oh, Noah, it's been too long, and let's not make the next time longer. It's been great to see you. Hopefully we can see you face to face sometime soon. The borders are open, but
Well, and hopefully they stay open. Hopefully they stay. And congratulations on 200 episodes. Anybody who's attempted to do anything, and get 10,000 steps a day is hard to keep a streak going, right? But to do a podcast, and not lose steam after one season, after 6-8 episodes, to keep it going 200 episodes is a feat, and just mazel tov on that. And one quick plug, Brad, you did mention Bad Summit before. For people who don't know about it, thebadsummit.com. There may be an exciting new update by the time this episode comes out. If not, keep hitting refresh for a few hours, and maybe by then there will be an update. But there will be a 2021 Bad Summit. It is going to be free, and it is going to be at the end of October for on a single day. Please do check it out. Consider coming once information is available. Maybe Mike and Brad will drop something in future show notes as well for you. Of course. And there will also be at that event a really exciting announcement about what the future of Bad Summit is going to look like for a right after I said ditch it on hybrid, for a hybrid in-person and virtual Bad Summit beginning summer 2022 in a really beautiful place that is no longer chasing around ISTE, but in a great place to come visit in the summer that has mountains and fresh air around.
That's exciting. I'm excited. Listen,
Interesting.
I'll come visit
All right.
anytime. I could go for a DBC anytime. Denver Biscuit Company is life. Just saying. That cinnamon roll biscuit is life. Just saying.
Awesome. I like it. Well, Noah Geisel, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Noah.
guys.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Brad Treffler. My co-host is Mike Washburn. OnEducation is part of the On Podcast Media Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Monica Burns, Mike Matera, Tisha Richmond, and many more by visiting onpodcastmedia.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found at Brad Schruffler. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/OnEducationPod. We're also on Instagram at OnEducationPod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you would share it with them. Please leave us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Participate, for supporting us. Check out participate.com to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening, stay awesome, and see you soon.